First thing we're going to talk about here today is, I guess researchers have been taking a look at password wallets. And Jim, what can you tell us about it?
Yeah, there's been a lot of attention to a paper that's going to be presented next month at a security conference by a couple of researchers at UC Berkeley. I think it's Berkeley. Mm-hmm. And they looked at four popular password managers and found some issues with them. And a lot of the stories have been making this out to, oh, panic, the sky is falling, password managers are no good. And that's not really what I take away from reading the paper. But they looked at four of these password managers, web-based password managers. Only one of them was one that I was really familiar with, and that was LastPass. That actually happens to be one I use for my personal stuff at home. But they also looked at RoboForm, My1Login, PasswordBox, Need My Password. And basically what they found is that there were a couple of issues. One with one of the big ones that a lot of these stories are highlighting is with the bookmarklet feature of LastPass, which basically allows you to have LastPass automatically log you in to websites, and specifically in web browsers that you can't integrate it in another way. And that's an issue. It was fixed almost immediately after they were informed. The folks at LastPass were informed of the vulnerability in 2013, so it hasn't been a problem since September of last year. Another one of their vulnerabilities that they found, and they seem to spend a lot of time talking about LastPass, since that seems to me to be the most popular of the ones they looked at. The other one was a cross-site request forgery issue, and this one could actually be kind of a big deal if you use LastPass's one-time password function. Basically, this would make it possible to steal your encrypted password vault, and then they could try to hack that offline. There are ways to protect yourself against some of these things. 4 of the 5 folks fixed the vulnerabilities immediately after they heard about them. The other one, the researchers hadn't heard back from. It's not going to get me to stop using these, because I just have too many passwords to try to keep in my mind, and this allows me a software product that I can use to generate secure, strong passwords and keep them encrypted. I turn on the 2-factor authentication to even get into my password vault, so that is an additional level of security. But one of the things that this really brings up is this is another piece of software. Software is going to have bugs. It is not, if you integrate it in with other things, if you use it directly in your browser, then potentially there are ways going through the browser to get at it. One of the nice things about the 2 password vaults that I use, though, is they're separate applications. The way I use them, they're separate applications, and I either cut and paste or have it up on my mobile device, my phone, and I with my eyeballs copy it, read it and type it in on the keyboard. So I still think password vaults are a good thing, and it really didn't talk about, and I don't know whether they tried to attack any of the other real popular ones like KeePass and 1Password and those. So there are still good options out there. I definitely wouldn't use these stories to scare me off from using the password managers. Just remember, they are themselves pieces of software. They could potentially have vulnerabilities and bugs just like any other piece of software.
Yeah, I think all your points are very good, Jim. I think as a practical matter. So let's dig into this just a little bit more here. First of all, can you help us distinguish a little bit about, you used the term password vault, and in this case we're talking about web-based password managers, and then I guess there are probably some other options here that are worth considering. For example, federated access control mechanisms. Can you help us distinguish between the three a little bit?
You have a federated access. You've got kind of a single sign-on thing where you have the control is managed at some other party, and you authenticate to this other party, and they pass either the credentials back to you to pass on, or they talk directly to the other system. These web-based password managers that they talk about in this particular paper are basically password managers where they keep your passwords encrypted out on some website so that you can access them from multiple devices, from your phone, from
right.
your laptop, from your desktop, whatever. What was the third one you were asking about?
I guess you mentioned password vault. I tend to equate that with something that perhaps you're using locally, but perhaps you have a different definition for it. But I think the notion of making the distinction between the three,
like a local application,
right?
So yeah, password vault could be something that's only kept on one device, kept locally, not accessible from multiple machines.
Right, and okay. So I think the significance there is each one of those are really sort of a distinct solution, all sort of trying to achieve the same purpose, but how they go about is a little different, and to the extent that you might have to do some manual operations to be able to, so for example, federated, you're only going to be able to work with organizations that have federated with that. So if you have a Google Plus password, for example, it's going to only work with organizations that have federated with Google, whereas this password, the web-based managers, as you mentioned earlier, give you the opportunity to synchronize between different devices, and but it is a web-based solution, and as you pointed out, it would have its own set of potential flaws associated with it. Whereas when I think of a password vault, it's something a little bit local. You're probably going to have to go through some additional manual steps to use it. And each of them have trade-offs, and I think you made a very good point. Just philosophically speaking, and this is philosophical, sort of the idealistic sense, adding software to any solution cannot inherently make it more secure. It certainly can make it more convenient. It can make it less prone to errors. It can give you more insight into things that you perhaps wouldn't otherwise know about. But underlying inside there, adding software introduces bugs, and fundamentally there are going to be flaws associated with that, with those solutions. But it's a matter of I guess balancing between sort of the philosophical security solution versus a more practical that might actually be helpful and better from a security standpoint. First of all, the fact that these researchers are looking at this, identifying some flaws, helping to isolate those and fix it, that's a good thing. It helps to reduce the number of flaws that are there, and to the extent that we can improve the quality of software and the development of tools like this, that certainly will be helpful going forward.